Well, welcome and thank you so much for being here. I am Suzanne Roth-paul and I am a certified primal health coach, and I'm the author of the Power in the Pantry ebooks. But what I love talking about most, second to toxic burden loads, and the number one cause of most chronic illnesses are toxic burden loads, is the fact that I am an independent brand partner with an incredible company called Lifewave that is global. So this company is around the world. We have so many team members all over the globe that are doing amazing work spreading the love about this product and its incredible opportunities as for a business and or for helping people that are unwell, and for age reversing for all of us just that are well, just living an optimal and much better life. And so this is what I do as a wellness advocate. I have this podcast called Suzanne Roth-paul Phototherapy. It was formerly called Lifewave. So you'll see me on all my pre-recorded videos on my YouTube channel that I've been talking about this now for 2 years. I've been doing a podcasting for the last couple of years, and I have over close to 50 videos. And I do want to mention that I hope that if you are new to me, that you'll go and check out the channel and also subscribe. Because when you do that, you're giving not only me more exposure on the messages I'm sharing, but it's giving more exposure to Lifewave. And I've been getting some wonderful community people that are reaching out to me and that are becoming brand partners and or preferred members. And so it's such a wonderful thing for me to be able to help and reach more people across the country. And so that's important. I wanted you to know that. And also that the reason for doing this work is to be able to share safe and harmless products. And that's what I love the most about Lifewave is it is a wearable technology that is non-transdermal, meaning nothing enters in the body. It's perfectly safe. And we love the fact that we can stick it and roll is what our favorite expression is. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I'll just do a quick introduction. I just happen to have one of my many favorite patches, but this is the Eon patch. It's a wonderful patch for helping support stress, anxiety, just, calming the nervous system. And what I love about this is it's just very supportive of those symptoms. And it comes in a 30-day supply. And then we're going to be talking about a wearable patch that's about this little bit bigger than a quarter with an adhesive back. And this goes on various parts of the body that wherever you have discomfort or wherever you want some extra love on your body for whatever reason, all the different patches, we have 11 patches, they do different things. You can put this at the point of those injury or pain or whatever, but you can also put it on specific points that the instruction booklets come along with the product, and they're based on meridian and acupuncture points. So we're not going to go into the details of how the product works. I have, as I said, close to 50 videos sharing all the different products, all the different patches, how they work, along with testimonials and, as I said, interviews like I'm doing today. And you can go watch that and you can learn more. But the most important thing is this is based on phototherapy or photobiomodulation. And so it is the patch isn't doing anything. It's made of some nanocrystals that are embedded inside there's a little white section in the middle around where the adhesive is. And that's got like a reflective quality. And what it does is when you put it on your body, it acts as a reflector in your body because we're made of light and energy. And it just tells the body what to do. So your body is doing the work. The patches are just like a messenger. I call it a messenger or a mirror. And it's an inside job. That's what we love again about these products is that good health and all of our good health starts inside cellular health. And so your skin, your biggest detox organ on your body, is your first sign of when something's wrong. All right, so another thing that I want to mention, of course, is my guest, who is a new friend, and he's been with Lifewave for a couple years, and he's also a brand partner. And he had a recent surgery that he's going to be sharing with us what it was all about and then how he used the patches before, during, and after. So we've got that to talk about with my special guest, and his name is Jaime. Now let's see if I can say his last name properly. Resonable. He's been doing product trainings for us, and he's also has an interesting way of presenting, and I really like the fact that he's a go-getter and he's has a lot of energy, and we're very excited wanted to talk to him and learn more about, how he used the patches, but how he got to the point where this condition that he has, which I'm just going to mention it quickly here, and it's an eye disorder that happens when your eyes hemorrhage. You blood vessels in the eye burst, and then you get blood in the eye, and then it can cause blindness. And so he's going to be sharing how that happened, what led up to that, and the little bit of research I did on it, Jaime, was that it's caused by high blood sugar levels. And the sad thing about it is it is dietary, and it can be reversed, and it can be, monitored better by diet and lifestyle choices. But some of the things that that are causal are high blood pressure, high cholesterol, smoking, and of course, if you're diabetic or pre-diabetic, this is something that you have to be aware of. So I did also find, Jaime, that 7 cases per 100,000 people. So this is a very rare condition. And sorry that you're one of those in that category, but perhaps it was a real good eye-opener for you, no pun intended there, to look closer at your diet and look closer at your lifestyle choices. And there's nothing better than Lifewave to be part of a community where our founder does such an amazing job of teaching us about how nutrition and our foods impact not only the quality of our life, but how the patches work. So the healthier you are, the better they will work, because your body doesn't have to, these patches don't have to help you work so hard to heal from, chronic disorders. And, my favorite thing to talk about is toxic burden loads is the root cause. So I do appreciate the fact that you're here. I have a few statistics we can talk about once we get going on the diabetic part. But Jaime, why don't you come say hello and let's get started. Nice to see you and nice to have you.
Suzanne, thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to be here today. Lifewave has been incredible. The last name is spelled Resonable.
There you go. It sounds Resonable.
So really quick, a little bit about myself. My parents are Filipino. It's Filipino last name, but I was made in Japan. I was born in Japan. And I've lived here in the United States for over 50 years. Came here when I was about 4 years old. I live here in Silicon Valley in California, and being around technology, being around life sciences, medical device, pharma, biotech, I ended up getting into that field, career-wise. So I worked for a consulting firm, for a contract research organization, really supporting those big pharma companies, medical device, and biotech. So a lot of those products, a lot of those pharmaceuticals that were my clients, those pharmaceutical companies, I was on a number of those drugs. My parents were diabetic. They had high blood pressure. And I think it was in our family history, and you're so right, Suzanne. Diabetes is totally connected to what you eat. And unfortunately, the Filipino diet, the Filipino food is not the healthiest. There's a lot of rice, so there's a lot of carbs. And for some people, they're insulin resistant or become insulin resistant. And I've been battling diabetes, for over 20 years now. I think it was in my 30s when I was first diagnosed. I'm not on insulin, but I was on pills, on prescription pills, some same companies that I was working with. And I didn't realize this, but with some of there's a reason, there's a purpose for some pharmaceuticals and drugs. I'm not bashing them. But many times you're trading one symptom for another. And for my own journey, my own health journey, taking these medications, learning about health, learning about, what foods to eat and exercise, it's always easy, isn't it, to learn it? But when it comes to applying, even when we know we're not supposed to eat birthday cake, we still do. Foods that we're not supposed to eat.
I do, and I want to interject something because it's really important for people to know that I am a recovering sweetaholic. And I actually I was a baker and a pastry chef. And when I got diagnosed with my chronic illness back at age 47, I had just built a 12-foot marble island so I could bake. And it was quite shocking after almost divorcing my husband over the island cost that he said he found out that, you mean you're not going to be able to even bake for me after all of that? And it was actually quite funny, but tragic, because if you knew me pre-47, you got biscotti and homemade cookies, and I made cakes. And so I was really, I grew up in the South, so we ate a lot of sugar and sweets. And so as a
Yes.
result, diabetes didn't run in our family, but rotten teeth did. And so I
Oh,
have a mouthful of mercury and fillings. And so what I ended
wow.
up with mercury was brain damage in terms of the brain fog and feeling awful
Yeah.
and mental
Yeah.
health issues. So I just was mentioning, thank you for saying that you were with a big farm, you were using pharmaceuticals, and you were obviously treated by a doctor and you were supplied pharmaceuticals by a doctor, and they never once talked to you about your diet. And
Yeah.
sadly, that's what's been happening, but the paradigm is shifting, and it is actually, we just did the new food pyramid. It's upside down, that the government has
Yes.
done thanks to RFK
Yeah.
Jr., but it still means that we have a long way to go. But the exciting part is there's foods out there. I tell people you can have your cake and eat it too when you work with me, because I teach you how to be able to eat those treats and not feel guilty. So back to you. Thank you for that. And it was important to know that you really didn't have, you were suffering in silence those years, and people didn't really talk to you. Doctors didn't talk to you about what you could do to reverse chronic illness. One last thing I do want to mention, that you said that your family has diabetes and it runs in the family, and a lot of people use that as an excuse, say, well, it runs in the family, I'm
Oh, yeah.
doomed, I don't have a choice. And I want to
Yeah.
just use a phrase that we use in the industry that's really poignant. We all have genetic predispositions. So you want to say that your genes are not your destiny. You obviously can change things, but
Want to be more. Mhm.
yeah, but your genetic makeup is, the gun is your genes, but the foods and lifestyle pulls the trigger. So
Ah,
you
yes.
do not have to have that trigger pulling if you're consuming the right foods. Enough said. We know
Absolutely.
that. Yeah. Okay. All right. Back
Absolutely.
to you.
No, 100%, 100%. So in my 30s, I was diagnosed diabetic, and it's been a journey. It's truly been a journey. And many times, especially here in the Bay Area, probably even across the United States, we get focused on work, and our health sometimes takes a back seat. And it's not, unfortunately, it's not until I started getting symptoms, in regards to negative symptoms from the diabetes, that I started really paying attention. At first, it was peripheral neuropathy in the hands and feet. You start losing sensation in the hands and feet. It also can potentially affect your mood. So I actually, fast forward to 2024, was when I got a chance to meet Tito Nuestro and Rick DeLuca with Lifewave. I had a networking event, because at that point I was already self-employed. I have several businesses that I run besides Lifewave. And I was holding a small business networking mastermind every Wednesday morning. And Tito Nuestro was referred to it, and he came in, and I said, "Hi, what's your name?" And he said, "Tito." And I said, "What company are you with?" And he mentioned Lifewave. And I had asked him, what was that? What is Lifewave? And he talked about, these patches, and it does all the benefits of it. And he asked me if I had any pain. And I said, "Actually, I do. I have tailbone pain, neck pain, plantar fasciitis." And he said, "On a scale from 1 to 10, what would you say is the level, and where's the most pain?" And I said it was in my shoulders and probably on my tailbone. At the time, every time I
Mm.
sat down, it just hurt, right? So he had me stand up, and he patched me on the back of my neck with the Aeon patch. And within a few seconds, well, he asked me, he said, "Count backwards from 30." I was like, "Count backwards from 30? Okay." So he patched me. I started counting 30, 29, 28, all the way down to about 15. I was like, "What?" I was at 15, and all of a sudden the pain started diminishing. Like, I was moving around, I was rotating, and I said, "What is this?" And it was literally 20 seconds, and
Mm.
the pain went away. And he started talking more about it. And we had probably about 10 people there for my mastermind. And he started patching two or three other individuals. And I went in, at the time, it was called, what was it called? Diamond, which is
Mhm.
our equivalent to our premium. I ended up giving him my credit card. Is like, "I need this. I could help so many people with this." And so did another one of my friends. He went in as Diamond. So Tito got two diamonds, as well as two or three other individuals that a day or two later, they signed up underneath me. So it was incredible. And it's been an incredible ride since then. I still check in with those individuals that, signed up with Lifewave and pet purchase, and they still have monthly subscriptions, with Lifewave. They're still in my team. And ever since then, that was June 2024. It was a Wednesday. I remember the exact date. June
Wow.
20 was when
Okay.
Tito Destro came into my life and shared with me Lifeway patches. And I have to say, the first few things that I experienced was not only the pain diminished, but in about 2 or 3 months following, I started noticing difference in my mood. Now, prior to meeting Tito, and I'm very open about this, during the pandemic in 2021, 2022, I developed depression.
Mm.
And in 22, and I'm going to say that for another conversation, but I was on antidepressant medications. First, I was on Prozac. That almost ended my life when I was on Prozac
Oh
uh,
dear.
for a week. And they said, okay, we got to switch. And they put me on Lexapro. And I was on there. So I was on that medication from 2022 to 2024 when I met Tito. And then in June, I met Tito. In August, I was off of Lexapro. I was off my antidepressant medication. So these are the benefits that I experienced early on with the patches. Okay. So I got off Lexapro, my mood, my clarity. I experienced incredible cognitive function,
Mm.
since, and just this is just my own story, right? Many of the pain that I had diminished, some of the scars that I had after, leading into towards the end of the year at the 6 month mark, started fading. So I started experiencing some true benefits of the patch. Now, I know everybody's different, everybody's body is different. Some people will react to it or have a response right away. I was one of those fortunate ones that I did have an immediate response. Now, back in December of that same year, I think it was it was November of 2024, a few months after I met Tito, I had what they call a vitreous hemorrhage, okay, in my good eye. Okay, and when I say good eye, prior to meeting Tito in 2023, I had a vitreous hemorrhage in my other eye. So first I believe it was my right eye in 2023 that I had a vitreous hemorrhage. And then in 2024, I had another vitreous hemorrhage in my left eye. Okay. I don't remember which eye it was, but it was one or the other. But ultimately, so what happens is when you have issues with your eyes, you have two eyes. And literally you could see with just one eye.
Hmm.
One good eye, your brain is very powerful. It really makes it compensates for the vision of your eye. But when you lose the eyesight of both eyes, then you're in trouble,
Yeah.
right? So when I met Tito, for the most part, I was blind in one eye. I was legally blind in one eye. Okay. And then when I had the vitreous hemorrhage, which is due to diabetic retinopathy, they call it vitreous because it's the vitreous membrane. It's the back of your eye and it has blood vessels and they burst, depending upon your glucose levels. If your glucose
Yep.
levels are high, if your blood pressure is high, it could burst and fills your eyeball with blood. So ultimately, I'm looking through a pool of blood, right? And the vitreous hemorrhage, the vitreous membrane has some scar tissue as well.
Hey,
So
can I just ask, is it uncomfortable? How does it feel?
you don't feel it. At least
Huh.
I did. I didn't feel any pain when that happened,
Wow.
except probably eye strain because you are straining trying to see,
It's
right?
not like you have literal blood coming out of your eye, though. It's just
No, no,
it
it's just
gets
black
assimilated, it
eye.
gets
Yeah,
absorbed, but it's causing damage as it's
yeah,
doing that.
and I could actually see a tint of red. It's like see
Wow.
like if you filled up a glass of cranberry juice and water, it's like putting it up to your face, and that's kind of what it
Hmm.
kind of and that wasn't the beginning of my eye issues. In 2021 I had a cataract in both my eyes. and I had cataract surgery in 2021. And then in 2024, I had the vitreous hemorrhage. In 2025, early on last year, around February, that's when I had my first surgery. And then a few weeks after, I had the second surgery in my eye.
And you had
Now,
them done independently.
individually, yeah, I mean, at all possible, they don't want to have surgery. I mean, if you have one good eye, they would rather not have the surgery on both your eyes
Wow. Okay.
because you're going under the scalpel.
Hmm.
They do make an incision. They do go the back of your eye. They do
Okay.
take out the vitreous membrane, and you're susceptible to what do you call it? Infection.
Yeah.
With any
Yeah.
surgery, you're always susceptible to infection, and there's always that possibility of ultimately going completely blind. And I'm talking about just lights out, lights
Scary.
out. Yeah, so
Scary.
with my type of blindness, I was considered legally blind. It looked like almost like cataract, like looking through a completely dirty windshield in your car. Like if
Mhm.
somebody threw mud on there and it was smeared on there, that's what it was like.
Yeah.
So when that happened in November 2024, I could not drive. I legally could not drive. I did not feel
Mm.
safe. You
Yeah.
know, it was hard for me to watch TV, read a book. Could not read a book, even with a magnifying glass. When it's so funny because when I had cataract, I would use
Yes.
this
Yeah. My
to
dad had that
read a
too.
book, and you with health, you never know what you have until you don't have it anymore,
Oh man, especially eyesight. Yep.
especially eyesight, right? And I realized right then and there, you could have a million problems, but the minute you have a health problem, you only have one problem. And that was a wake-up call. That was a wake-up call. Now, I've been wearing the patches by the time I had my surgery in February of 2025 and March of 2025, you need to understand I was already on the patches for a few months, June of 2024. So
Okay.
what is that, like 7, 8 months, right? That I was on primarily using X39 and Aeon patch. Those are
That's
the
what I
two.
wanted to ask you. Was X39 on the traditional location, but you weren't really applying them around your eye? And you were using
Yeah.
the Eon on the traditional locations as well?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Now, what had happened in November when I did have the second vitreous hemorrhage, I was at that point with Lifewave, I was doing the business opportunity meetings because we have an office here in California,
Hmm.
and I was presenting twice a week, at the time, right? Presenting twice a week. And when that happened, I could no longer drive. So I called Rick DeLuca and Tito Nuestro, my upline, and I said, hey guys, this is what happened. I cannot see, I cannot drive. Unfortunately, I cannot come to the office, until I have my surgery,
Hmm.
right? And at that point, Rick said, hey, you need to talk to Roy Sergiano. There's an eye protocol. Let me get him on the phone right now. And
Yes.
I remember that day, Rick, we did a three-way call, and Roy Sergiano said, okay, you have to wear the glutathione, Aeon, and carnosine, when you're sleeping, this three patch system, while you sleep. So this was probably about 2 weeks prior to my surgery, right? So
You
I
weren't
started,
wearing, it wasn't an eye mask, it was just putting them on the skin. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And in fact, what I'll do is I'll show some pictures of that. Let me share my screen really quick. So
Yeah, and
so
while
that
you're doing that, I wanted to just mention that my father, he had the macular degenerative disorder and he had a lot of discomfort. He had a blind eye and one eye was just uncomfortable. We were trying to preserve it. And he
yeah.
wore an eye mask and we put glutathione and I believe it was Eon on the insides of both of
Mm,
those mat, and so it helped. And he would put the mask just above his head. He didn't want to be completely blind because it was not it's not nice to be where he wasn't completely blind, but he was getting close. And
yeah.
and it's amazing the pain relief he got. Now he had pain with his eyes, so amazing that you were putting it just where you were on your
Yeah.
skin, but you can also put them in. You do not have to wear the patches on your skin. You can put them on your clothes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
say
No,
for
you're
instance, if I'm here wearing this sweater and I don't want it on my skin because I, just don't, I can put it on the sweater and it needs to just be 3 inches from the skin and it will do what it needs to do. It's pretty amazing. So
Yeah.
you're
If
going to
you
show a
could
picture.
see sharing capabilities, so I could share my
Oh,
screen.
I thought I did.
Yeah, I thought you
Oh,
did
just
too,
it
but
changed. Yeah, it's doing some weird
why not
things.
shift it off? So let me go ahead and see if I could share now. So share. Okay, share screen. All right, there you go. All right. So, okay. So here is Mr. Tito Nuestro and Rick DeLuca. This is
Ah,
they're the ones that introduced me to Lifewave. And here is, you could see that I'm wearing the patches on
yes.
the right, on the top, and on the left-hand side there. All right.
So
Here's
this
a
was post surgery.
Yeah, well, pre and post. Well, this one, yeah, this is
Yeah,
post, but this is what I would wear pre surgery, at least 2 weeks while I sleep,
yeah.
and then after the surgery, I continued wearing this protocol for about another week and a half.
And so you
Right.
didn't wear them. That's a nice thing about not having hair on your head because it's a bear to put that stuff.
Yeah.
I use bobby pins and put them in, and
Yeah.
it's like. But yes, you were able to put those on easily, and so you basically were wearing them at nighttime so that you didn't have them on your head during the day, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so
And
you wear.
yeah, this top one that's on the top of my head, I would even actually try putting it on the middle eye, the
Yes,
seeing
the
eye.
third
There.
eye. Mm-hmm.
Third eye. Yeah, so I've tried that as well. And I what's crazy, this is what's crazy. So my very first surgery, I had my surgery, went well, and I was awake during the whole time. They usually put you under, but because there was something, because I didn't fast or something like that long enough, because
Uh-huh.
diabetics have to fast 24 hours, where individuals that have normal condition, they only have to fast like 12 hours prior to surgery. But if you're
Ah,
diabetic, is so they put me on a local anesthetic. So I was awake the whole entire time. I could hear the conversations they were having, but I didn't feel any pain, right? Which was important. But they
good.
had your head like completely locked in place, where you can't move, right? Obviously.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
crazy, they put the bandages, and the very next day, I had the bandage on the first eye taken off. And my doctor, my eye surgeon, Dr. Barillo, he was like, wow. He was so astounded. He said, wow, we
Yeah.
could not have asked for better results. I was like, that's great, doc. And he said, no, you don't understand. He said, the results you have today, just one
After
day
sur-
after your surgery,
uh-huh.
we weren't expecting this type of result for at least a few weeks, at least for a month.
Wow. Wow. That's
I
that's
just
what is
It was amazing how he said that, right? And at the point, I was wearing the patches too. He didn't know what it was. What was kind of funny, he didn't really ask me what they were until I asked him, so doc, what do you know? Let me ask you a question. What do you know about stem cells? And and stem cell injections. And he said, why did you have stem cell injections? I go, if I did, would that improve my
Yeah,
eyesight?
yeah.
A lot of clientele does have stem cell injections and proves their eyesight. And he asked, did you have any? And I said, no,
Uh-huh.
but I have these patches, and but they claim that it increases a certain peptide,
Hmm.
and it's your stem cells. That's what I told him. I was very vague, and he goes, well, if it does improve your stem cells, which depletes, I could see how it would help. That's what he said. Those were his words. And then he asked me if I could send him some information, and I sent him some information. So, and he's already sent one patient over my way.
Oh,
I don't think
good. It's
really
just
market
such an amazing opportunity for people for recovery. It's,
or recovery.
did you do anything? You weren't wearing them during surgery. You just did, the guys, Tito and the protocols did get before you, just heads up, if you're going to have a surgery, you can prep your body by wearing them
Prior
to
and
strengthen
after.
it. So you were wearing them before, and
Yeah.
then you, like a couple of weeks or 10 days,
Yeah, yeah.
and then,
About 2 weeks prior to the surgery, and about a week and a half after the surgery. And all that time and I'm talking about the eye protocol. And then during that time I was using X39 every single day. So
yes,
I
because,
went,
okay.
yeah, that's just kind of my standard,
Well,
you
and the
know.
X39, we encourage everybody to use that because it is the patch that is activating your copper peptide, which tells your dormant stem cells to wake up and to do their
Yeah.
work. And so they go dormant after, I think it's after the age of 30, we already starting getting dormant stem cells based on our diet and lifestyle. And so that's amazing. So it was 2 weeks before, then you went through the surgery, and the surgery was just an
Yeah.
in and out one day.
Yes, correct. And what's amazing is I had I told him, hey, I want to get one, when I had the vision, when I got my vision back in my first eye, I said I want to move forward with my left eye. I know there's some risk in regards to getting surgeries,
Hmm.
but I want to have it, because I
Wow.
have one eye. So like 4 weeks later, I was able to have that surgery, my
Okay.
second eye. And here's what's crazy. I had a vacation scheduled for about 4 weeks after that. And he said, well, if you have this surgery, there's a chance that you might not be able to fly,
Hmm.
and go on your trip. So just want you to be aware of it. Well, there was no issues with the second injury, second surgery, and went well. And then my wife and I got a chance to go on our 6 week vacation in Asia. We were in Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand. And I have to say, when you have your vision, you could really appreciate your vacation, the beauty of the country, just your surrounding in general. Like, it was so vivid.
Mm-hmm.
And what's nuts is this: after my second surgery, we did an eye test, and I've been wearing glasses since I was 19 years old. I've been wearing glasses, corrective
Mm-hmm.
glasses, prescription glasses, since I was 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And what's nuts is, after my second surgery, we tested my eyes, and I have 20/20 vision in both my eyes.
Oh my goodness.
It's nuts. This is what's crazy. I
Huh.
asked the doctor, Doc, was the surgery, it's called a vitrectomy. You guys could research it. It's called a vitrectomy, for vitreous hemorrhage. And all it does is takes out the membrane, the vitreous membrane, and drain out the blood during the process.
Mhm.
But it's not corrective surgery. It's not corrective vision surgery.
Hmm.
That's my doctor. Doc, is this corrective surgery? And he said, no. I go, well, how can you explain? We just did an eye test. How can you explain that I have 20/20 vision in both my eyes? And I've been wearing glasses, prescription glasses, since I was 19 years old. And he goes, I can't.
Wow. Huh. Interesting.
He said, I can't nail it down. He did say, well, some people, your eyesight just heals by itself. Some people, they've been wearing glasses for years, and all of a sudden I could see, right? But it's so
Hmm.
interesting in regards to how this all happened, within a certain period of time that I've been wearing the patches, right? The Lifewave technology, when
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
all
Has it been
happened.
a total of a good year and a half that you were using them at that point before the surgery, or
No,
2 years?
no,
Six
no, it
months.
was less than that, about 6 to 8 months, about 8 months, because
Mhm.
I 2024, that's when I met Tito, in June, and I had my surgeries in February of 2025, just last year,
Yeah. And
right?
they do say that there's all certain things that every month the
Mhm.
X39 is doing. And
Yeah,
so a lot of that is, if you've got certain areas of your body that are needed to be dealt with first, because eyesight is, we cannot live without our eyesight very easily. And so
yeah,
perhaps you were fortunate that that was what it went to first. All
yeah.
the other things could be put on hold. It wasn't like red alert, but your eyesight is. And
Yeah.
so, well, we can certainly postulate on that, but the good news is that you can't now you can see okay without your glasses on.
I could see all I could see the words on my screen. Now, if it gets really tiny, I do need reading glasses, just the part because these are progressive, so
It's
I
amazing
could
though.
see. But here's the thing, I feel like I look weird without glasses. I
No, well, you've got a certain style
myself.
with them.
It's
Yeah,
been 15 years. I feel like I look more intellectual with glasses
we all
on.
do. I don't,
So,
I'm
so
not wearing mine because I feel want to look intellectual. I really, when I take mine off, I can't
yeah,
see. Things go blurry. And this all started, it's interesting, about the age of 45, a lot of people will say that they start noticing their eye deterioration. And I'd like to know what that magic number is because it's pretty universal. And then as you
yeah.
get older, it continues. And so I actually do need to be wearing the patches more on my eyes for that result of just helping the clarity and just keeping them healthy. And, I do wear plenty of patches. So I do like the fact that, you were using them around your eyes. And I wear Alavita, I wear Silent
Mhm.
Nights. I wear primarily Alavita on my face most nights and Silent Nights. So maybe the and Eon, I wear it on my head a lot when I've got, emotional instability or I'm just not sleeping
Yeah.
well. It's very powerful on these 5 points on our heads. I've talked about it a lot in my protocols that I and the product reviews that, our brain is the master regulator. They say our gut is when it comes to dietary stuff, that it's controlling what your brain on what you want to eat because of addictions. But your brain really is control center, but sometimes it doesn't know the body's so out of whack that the brain doesn't know that it's okay to get to regulate. And so wearing this unbelievable Eon patch, I love it. Most people can wear this at nighttime. Jaime, I didn't know if you know that. It's pretty good for at
Yeah.
nighttime.
Hmm.
But another one of my favorites is actually carnosine. And carnosine, you were wearing it at night and it wasn't giving you any trouble
No, not
sleeping?
at all. Not
Okay,
at
I
all.
love this one for nighttime, and it also keeps your complexion beautiful. If I've got like breakouts or skin issues, I'll just put the little carnosine on, and the next day they've been abated. But David Schmidt, our founder, says carnosine is the one patch he can't wear at night. It energizes him and keeps him awake. So
Interesting.
you have to be mindful of that. So when you're doing the
Yeah.
protocol that Jaime was doing, which is the Eon, it's called Y-Age, and it's 3 patches. It's the Eon, it's glutathione, which is your master antioxidant. And so this is just helping support what glutathione you have production in your body already, and then carnosine. And these are the three that my father coincidentally was using for his eyesight as well. And he was wearing the X39 and 49 every day. So it is interesting the combination of them. I have a sister who said, "Why doesn't he only make one patch to do everything?" And I looked at her like, with the amount of chronic issues going on, do you think one patch is going to do it all? Some people, the X39 does. Some people,
Yeah.
X39 does it all for them. But I love that he has these alternatives for us. And
Yeah.
you can target things so much better. And so they all do a little bit different things. And he was, in his ingenious way, was able to shift the design of them so that they can address different things in our body. Like I tell people, you don't just eat one food for your diet. You have to have a
Sure.
multitude. So variety is the spice of life. You got to keep that up. But one thing I would like to know is, how have you changed your diet? Are you being more mindful about what you're eating?
As much as I possibly can.
Well, now you
I'll,
know me, so now we're going to be getting into trouble
yeah.
because, you're going to know me, so there's going to be an accountability partner here.
Okay, that's great.
But it really is important. And I just wanted to mention something about being a diabetic, if I may, because you said your parents had it and it was, y'all have all been dealing with that. When I was growing up, these numbers are crazy. Like, one in
Yeah.
three Americans today, and from 12 and up, they're categorizing the 12-year-olds and up. One in three are pre-diabetic today. And that is
Yeah.
unheard of. So we've got an epidemic of obesity. You can just look around and see fudgy, pudgy kids, and that's showing diabetes. And then 1 in 10 Americans have the true diabetes that is obviously inherited. And
Yeah.
so even though it is inherited, doesn't mean, again, like you are going to get it. If your diet's different and off the kilter, it will. But we had family friends growing up where the father, this is when I was a kid, 10 years old, I never even heard of diabetes before. And the father had extreme diabetes, and he was thin and he was healthy and he looked great. He lived a long and healthy life. And his wife, if he was visiting my dad, he was a carpenter, he helped dad with a lot of projects around the house. If it was 12 o'clock, he'd have to say, I've got to go now, and he had to go home and eat a very restrictive diet. His wife made exactly what he was supposed to eat. He stayed thin, he stayed healthy, he stayed well, and he lived well into, I think many diabetics don't live much beyond 80. Are
Yeah.
your parents still alive?
My mom is. My dad passed away at an early age due to diabetic complications. Yeah.
How old is your mom?
She's right 82.
Oh,
Yeah.
so she's gone beyond. Does she use
Hmm.
the patches?
She does. Absolutely.
Well, it'd be really interesting. And she started on them about
About a year
year
ago.
ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was interesting is this couple they had a daughter, and she ended up being morbidly obese. And when I saw what she ate, I understood decades later that everything was carb centered, sugar. She didn't control her diet, and eventually she ended. It was genetic. She obviously inherited it, and she ended up losing a leg, a foot,
Oh,
a foot. They
wow.
had to take a foot off. And
Wow.
so she lost her foot, then she was wheelchair bound, so then it was even worse. And then I would visit her often. She was a good neighbor friend, and the diet was it was just horrible what I was witnessing
Yeah.
watching her eat. And then she passed away probably in her 70s. She didn't live long. And so that just shows the juxtaposition between her and her dad. And her dad didn't have that processed food that we have today, didn't have fast food on every corner that is tempting. And so that's really what it's all about, is it's really not our faults, but it is our responsibility now to know what's causing it, and doctors to
Well,
be educating.
not only that, Suzanne. So my doctor prescribed some medications. That there's one called Ribelsis, and we don't want to get into too much into the weeds, but it's curbed my appetite. And in this day and age where Ozempic, there's so
Mhm.
many different drugs, like I lost 30, 40 pounds just being on this drug, this Ribelsis, which is great. However, I feel like there was some side effects to it. So just recently, back in November, I stopped taking the Ribelsis, actually, probably October timeframe, against my doctor's wishes. And I noticed I started putting weight on. And of
You mean
course,
after you stopped?
after I
Hmm.
stopped using the Ribelsis, my appetite came back.
Hmm.
It's difficult to resist some of the things that I see. But while I was on this drug, I had no urge to eat some of those sugary things, right? Or carb centric meals.
Well, can I
But
tell you what you has anybody introduced to you SP6? The SB6 patch.
yeah,
Now
I have.
that one, I've got most of my women friends in their midlife who are have hormone issues. It helps support overeating. It helps support just eating in general, cravings.
Yeah.
And I love to travel with it. And if you travel a lot, I put it on my stomach meridian
Okay, right below
location.
the belly button.
No, this one's on the knee to the left of the kneecap. It's
Oh, I see. Okay.
ST36, I believe is what it's called. And
Okay.
that location, actually, you guys, it's really funny. I'll put it on when I travel, so I'm not tempted to eat crap while I'm traveling, and it just keeps me off of wanting to be in hunger all the time, whether it's in a car or when in an airplane. But I also noticed that I sometimes will sleep with it, forgetting it's there, or I
Yeah.
notice my appetite's not. I'm like, I'm not really hungry today. I'm like, what's going on? And then I'll take my clothes off that night, and there's that patch on my knee, and I'm like, oh, so it's a wonderful, hormonal supportive patch, and it ironically has 4,500 views right now on YouTube. So it is
Wow,
my
that
most coveted patch right now that people are really watching because of hormonal issues. So it's really a
yeah.
good one to just FYI. You can replace there. You have a medication that has side effects. The same thing with Ozempic. It's a what is it? GLP? Is it GLP-1? Whatever it is that is,
LP1.
yeah, and what they were talking about, I've heard a lot of this, is that what happened? Did we just stop making GLP-1? Because
Yeah.
why do we need it now? Well, it's because of all these toxins in our body are dysregulating our ability to perform optimally. And so that's why so many people are using it. But what happens when they lose all that weight and you can't stop it? That's the scary part. And the side effects are still, it's still a medication.
Yeah.
And so we love the fact that, SP6, you can wear the X39. There's certain things you can do to help with the appetite. And then Eon helps with inflammation. And so we know that all chronic issues are inflammation, and that's what's going on in your body when you are overeating. And it's really, really important to be able to curb the appetite and make
For
healthier
the appetite.
choices. And I always like to end this with, do you have any one tip that you would like to you know, explain to somebody who's on the fence about joining Lifewave or who's using the patches but aren't sure they're working? Is there anything that encouragement? Because you obviously are a one patch wonder and you saw amazing things right away.
Right away. But for those people that, let's say they're fairly healthy and but they want to help other people, I would say, hey, patch 10 different people before making a decision about Lifewave. If talk to your friends and family, have a conversation about health. Ask them, hey, you know what? On a scale from 1 to 10, how would you describe your health? Because I care about I care about you. I care about all my friends. I know
Yeah.
we don't talk about it enough. And I've been sharing more about my own health journey, with the complications. And I've heard, because I share so openly about, dealing with diabetes and my eyesight and some of the complications, many of my friends opened up with me and said, hey, I'm experiencing the same thing. I'm type 2 as well. I've been on this medication, or I'm on insulin,
Yeah.
and
No.
for many people, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about their health. In the Asian community, we don't talk about mental health. We don't talk about health to other people. It's kind of taboo. You want
Yeah.
to just say that we're all healthy. So it's hard to kind of talk to individuals. But when you're vulnerable and say, hey, you know what, even if you're healthy, and just telling people that health is on the top of your priority list, or sharing some of your friends that maybe their health is not great, and you say, man, I wish she would have taken better care of
Yeah.
herself,
Yes.
and
Yes.
having these kind of conversations with people, it allows them to kind of open up. So vulnerability does allow people to open up and share their own health journey. And then, at that point, you could say, I think I have something that you should take a look at. It's helped many, many people. The company's been around for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
There's hundreds, if not thousands, of testimonials. Do your own research.
Yeah.
But I'd love for you to try this out. I just signed up one guy right after the Super Bowl weekend. He was over my house, and I was wearing, like normal. Most of the time, I'm wearing multiple patches unless I forget to leave them on, which I did the other night. And then I usually leave it off for 24 hours if I left it on for
Yeah.
24 hours.
Yeah. I do too. Or you can move it. I don't know if you know this.
To another location, right?
You can move it an inch over. Doesn't even
Oh,
have to be just an inch over. It's
okay.
because of the stimulation that it's not, it's one of the things that it is producing heat underneath. It's
Yeah.
causing it. Some people get rashes because of that reason.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
can
I
have a
feel
little
that.
bit of a heat rash. But if you just
Yeah.
move it over an inch, up, down, left, or right, that you can do that. And you can also
Okay.
put it on another location. Some people ask me, well, if I can I take it off and move it somewhere else?
Yeah.
If it's after 12 hours, and I said, of course you can. But we try sometimes to take a little break from using them just
Yeah,
because we
taking a little
can.
bit of break. So your body doesn't get used to it. And
It's just to give yourself a break and to not have to have them on every single day. But most of us that travel and do things and we're working around environments where people are sick and such, you do want to be, mindful of that. But I
yeah.
did want to mention that Maureen has asked a question here, and you can take the answer this if you want. But she says she has one eye that tracks with the other eye when I get doesn't track with the other eye when I get sick ever since she's
Oh,
had COVID. So she probably has a long COVID syndrome issue going on here, which is very typical. And do you know of an eye protocol for that? And I know what I would say, but did you want to mention, she's got this tracking issue, probably on one eye. It sounds like it's one eye that doesn't track with the other. I don't know if it's
yeah.
both
Yeah.
eyes.
Yeah. I personally haven't heard of a specific protocol for that symptom, but the eye protocol, from what
Hmm.
Roy and Rick had mentioned, that's just for complete eye health.
Yes.
So I would recommend starting with that and see if it helps, you
That's
know?
the Eon, Maureen. That's Eon, carnosine, and glutathione. And again, for my father, when he was using them for his eye issues, we were using, I believe it was, I want to say carnosine and glutathione, but it might have been Eon. We rotated them because they do different things, but he was using both of those. But the other thing that would be probably good, Maureen, is to consider at nighttime, like, I think because you want to put them around the eye, and doing what my dad did and what I do and what Jamie does is to put them on at night and see what you notice, like right next to. They say that if you can put things like right next to the eye or above them,
Yeah.
and just try. And one other option, you can't wear them at night as much because they can't keep you awake, is the energy patches. And I don't know if you've used those, but when I think of the energy patches, it's not just to give you energy so that when you're tired, it helps for that, but it's also for moving stuck energy and flow
Mm.
and getting congestion out. And it's kind of like having a needle on you from acupuncture, but you're getting to wear this for 12 hours. And that sometimes you can put the energy patches on the sides of your eye, and then you can stack on them Eon and carnosine, or Eon and glutathione, and you'll get like double the impact of those patches plus with the energy. And so I do that a lot for headaches. I do that a lot for back pain, hip pain, any pain that I have. If I'm noticing that the energy of the ice wave's not really kicking the pain, I will stack them. So just think about using them for different. You might be able to, Maureen, use maybe glutathione is helping more, and then that's all you need to use. And I don't know if it's one eye or both eyes. You'd have to gauge that. But the eye protocol is excellent for these things. But those three patches, Jaime, are used for also knee issues, elbow issues. I'm helping my husband who's got a broken elbow. All of those things are really great for the Y age. But then you're also wearing X39. So, but thank you for that. I think that's a great idea on just paying close attention to trying them. Because
Yeah.
people say, how come I don't know about this company? It's like, because it's a testimony company. There's not enough of us out there sharing it. At least there wasn't. Now there is. So you really do have to try them to believe them.
Yeah.
So I think that's a
Absolutely.
good way to end. I know, Jaime, we've gone a little over, but you're so interesting, and I really enjoy
Oh,
you sharing. And your eyes look fantastic, by the way.
thank
They're
you.
they're 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 healthy looking. I'm sure for you that's the gift right there, is to lose your
Oh,
eyesight. It's frightening
absolutely.
at any age, and I witnessed it with my sweet dad. And fortunately, we kept his one good eye. He had the visibility until the day he died. And
I just want to say I remember when I had my surgery, I said, God, if you give me my eyesight back, I will not complain about anything ever again.
how you
So
doing on that?
I have a different perspective. I'm doing actually pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
Really, really good. I find gratitude. I practice gratitude every single day.
And we
I
should.
really look at all the blessings that I have every single day, and I say, just thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
And make sure your gratitude list is much longer than your complaint list. And
Absolutely.
turn that frown upside down, as my son used today. I love that expression. He'd say, Mom, you got a frown, turn that upside down. I'd be like, okay, I get that's pretty cute. I have to say that. But it is true. I think that we are healthier, and we do have a better frame of mind when we're feeling better. And so, optimal health isn't just to be optimal and to be, oh yeah, right, I want to live longer. It's because of how it makes you feel, and how it makes you, when you feel good inside, then it resonates, and it feels good for everybody that surrounds you. Well, thank you so much for being here. I hope you'll come back and we'll hear another story. You said you had something else to share with us, and you're welcome anytime. And eye health is so important. So thank you. I mean, so nice to
Thank you.
have
Thank
you.
you for inviting me, and I'd love to come back and talk again.
I
Thank
would
you.
love it. I'm sure you've got more to share. Well, thank you everybody for being here. Have a great
Thank you.
evening. Thank you everyone that showed up here tonight, and look forward to seeing you guys hopefully next week.